And you found us, Swisher and all. Hi, everyone. We're here in the COVID closet in the hot part of California. It's Emil. Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. This is my Takeout. Emil Amok's Takeout. A special Saturday. Oh, man. Relax, Emil. It's Saturday. Relax. Okay. All right. I'm going to take it down. And it's Saturday. Hi, everyone. I had to go to a doctor yesterday. Not serious. Nothing serious. I had to do the equivalent of saying for my ears. Filipino doctor stuck something in my ears, and I had an audiology problem. I was odd, but I'm not that odd, but I am odd enough so that my left ear doesn't work as well as my right ear, which means if I watch television news, I'm listening harder. I understand Fox, and I'm having a hard time understanding CNN. That's what that means. Yeah, my left ear isn't hearing. Well, actually, CNN? No. I'm not hearing MSNBC as well as I used to. So anyway, I did watch it's not a debate. It's Joe Biden debating himself, essentially. But I did watch the ABC News interview with Stephanopoulos. What a hyped interview that was. When it was really basically, Joe, tell me if, you feel you're up to it. Of course, he feels up to it. I mean, what could he say, right? We're going to talk about that today. I'm going to bring up Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez to talk about that in a second. But I also want to say this is a special time, right? I mean, it's America's 248th birthday, right? That's special. It's also the birthday of my mother-in-law over there in the Midwest. All the families there except me because, I don't know, couldn't make it. But most of the families back there celebrating her birthday. She's in her 90s. Great. I'm just saying, I know a lot about these aging issues because of the aging people in my life. But I'm not there, but I want to celebrate her birthday. And then, of course, it's a birthday of a person I call my mentor, Flossie Lewis. She's 100 years old. 100 years old. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, past the Smucker's jar. If you're 100, you're not eating Smucker's. That's for sure. I know that. So, but Flossie is 100 years old this week, and I'm going to see her tomorrow. I wrote a piece about Flossie. She was my English teacher at Lowell High School, and I've known her for over 50 years, and she's known me, and she's known my life, and she's met all my wives and all my kids, and she's had vegan holidays at my house, and she's walked around the almond orchards near here, and she's also swum in our pond, and she's, and those are the good days. I knew her as a kid. She got me, I don't know if she got me into Harvard, but she said, you could go there. She was so encouraging. She never said no, which is the key thing about a mentor, to criticize in a way that it feels like encouragement, right? And so I never didn't believe that I could do anything. That's how important this lady was. She also taught me how to write, which is why I honor her not with a gift, but an essay. You can catch it on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. I talk about Flossie and how important she was. And, here's the weird thing. I mean, Flossie, I knew that, her birthday was coming up, but I didn't know what to give her. So there she is. Now you see Flossie Lewis. I call her a 100-year-old mentor mentor to, I mean, she's my teacher, but she was always there. She was like really surrogate mom. She was the Jewish mother I never had. And she was important to me, as I mentioned. And she taught me how to write. And as I say in the lead, as the nation and Joe Biden ponder whether he is too old for a second term as president, I contemplate the birthday of one of the most influential persons in my life, Flossie Lewis. Here's the thing about Flossie. She taught at Lowell High School, which was the most coveted high school, public high school by Asian American parents. I call Flossie the liberator because she liberated Asian American kids from their parents' doctor, science, lawyer stereotype to pursue an expressive life with words, literary or otherwise. And that's what Flossie did for me. She told me that I could be a writer. So my gift to her is this essay that I'm flipping through here on the ALDEF blog. I'll let you read it. Let you read it on your own. And I'll just talk about it. I'll just talk about it because that way, you know, you can read it on your own, but this is the something extra. This is the lanyap. You know, here, the thing about Flossie is that she never said no to me. She always encouraged me, even when I was, you know, one time, I think the worst thing she ever said to me, I still remember this. I was writing a paper on Hamlet. She said, "Oh, Emil, this is corny. Corny, that's got to be the worst thing. Someone who's trying to be funny in the or witty in the paper." She said, "Emil, that's so corny." To which I could only say, "Oh, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune." That's Flossie. Flossie. Everything I did as a writer started with Flossie, from declarative sentences to subject, verb, object, to making it simple, to topic sentences. It was all Flossie. So I wrote that essay for her. Now, PBS NewsHour did a thing on her about 10 years ago, or actually 8 years, 2016. And they had a little clip of me talking about Flossie. And I said, yeah, Flossie has always been there for me. She's never abandoned me. She always said yes. That was the original piece. They updated that piece. And the update between 2016 and now, 2024, pretty dramatic. And she said it herself. The body has grown old, really old. She hasn't lost her energy, but she can't walk. Her eyes have gone bad. So the joy of reading is gone. She can't make notes on the margin. And what got me when I saw the piece on the PBS NewsHour this past week, she said she can't write verse any longer because even as I write it, I can't read it back. I can't perfect it. And when she said that, I saw she was teaching me, because I can feel the same thing she's going through. My eyes aren't as good. I'm wearing these darn readers sometimes. I can't hear. I went to the audiologist yesterday. And then she said this. She says, and then there are moments when I'm very sure. And then there are moments when I fall apart. And that happens because the memory does go. And suddenly I find myself in the middle of a sentence waiting for a word that I've known all my life. I don't know why, but the word that comes to mind right now, I don't know why it's in my head, but Epicurean was the word that I had in my head. It's irrelevant. It's just nonsense. But can you find yourself in a situation where you're waiting for a word that you've known all your life that makes sense and it doesn't come up, like in that moment? And Flossie says, yeah, I'm waiting for that word. It doesn't come out, and that can wipe you out. It's a realization, right? Realization about the aging process, about getting old. And Flossie doesn't want to be president, but she's being honest about her age and her capabilities and how we all must come to terms with the process. It's the discussion we inevitably get to have with all the people we love, whether you're on the receiving side of that or the giving side of that talk. And it's maybe the reason I haven't seen her since COVID. I mean, she's in a place where it's kind of restricted because, you know, they're with other old people and some are sick and some aren't. And I wish to see her or remember her as I knew her, as the feisty, rebellious teacher, as my friend who got a PhD from Berkeley in English when she was retired and in her 70s, as my mother, my Jewish mom who came to the house for vegan holidays, played with our kids, walked the dogs. I don't want to see her fade. But you see how Flossie makes it easy on me, makes it easy on us, because she teaches that we need to find out on our own when it's time to gracefully accept the inevitable. I mean, one of the poets that Flossie introduced me to was Dylan Thomas, right? The namesake of Bob Zimmerman. Bob Dylan. Dylan Thomas. Yeah, it's okay to rage against the dying of the light. But you can also be mellow, philosophical, lyrical, sometimes mischievous. But you can accept it and be honest like Flossie. In other words, you can go out realistically, gracefully, with a sense of self intact as a winner, despite your age, despite the frailties. And that's the lesson that I learned as we approach this national debate that we're involved in. You know, whether the president is too old. I thank Flossie for helping me understand our national dilemma. Because whatever decision is made must be based on a country first idea. When you're talking about the president, it's got to be country first. Not based on party, not based on ideology, not based on winning, not even Joe's sense of ego. Just the ability to overcome the aging process and do the job for the sake of the country. Country first. And if you saw yesterday, Biden was first at Madison, Wisconsin, giving a speech. He was feisty as all get out. Yeah, not too old. Not too old to restore Roe v. Wade. Okay, I get it. He was speaking off a prompter. But he's 19 years younger than Flossie, so I give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, Flossie's 100, Joe's 81. And still, after that Wisconsin speech, I just hope he doesn't get railroaded by the Democrats who seem impatient and want him out because they want to win an election. And then came the Stephanopoulos interview. And I don't know. I just finished. I wrote my piece early after the Wisconsin interview, went to the doctor, came back, saw the Stephanopoulos interview on ABC, and then added this addendum to my piece on the Aldef blog. And Biden was stubborn and defiant. And what else could he be? He was everything but convincing. And a couple of answers bothered me. Like when he asked if his running was worth the risk of losing the election to Trump. And he was blunt. He said, I don't think anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me. This is a guy who has a 36% approval rating. It sounded to me like it was his ego talking. And then Stephanopoulos followed up. And this was a question that got me. I mean, forget the God Almighty answer. You know, I got to hear from God. I got to hear from the Almighty. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people like that went to that as a headline. A lot of people went to, do you want to take a cognitive test? And he said, I'm tested every day. Every day I have to be present. I'm tested. Okay, that's kind of like a sidestep. But this question got me. Stephanopoulos asked, "You know, the heart of your case against Donald Trump is that he's really only out for himself, putting personal interest ahead of the national interest. How do you respond to critics who say that by staying in the race, you're doing the same thing?" That is the question. That's the heart of it. And Biden said he wasn't sure who those critics were. I don't know who those critics were. They're just wrong, he said. And then he went back on the attack. Look, Trump's a pathological liar. And Stephanopoulos pressed him again. Have you convinced yourself that only you can defeat him? He said, I convinced myself of two things. I'm the most qualified person to beat him. Beat him once, right? I know how to get things done. And once again, was that ego speaking? Was that 2020 Joe speaking? Because he was not convincing. His voice was slight and raspy. Still, I mean, cold, jet lag. He had a full day. I know what that sounds like. I'm a public speaker. I know what it's like when your voice sounds like when you're younger and your voice sounded young, and then suddenly it sounds old. It just sounds old. You make up for it with energy. You make up for it with better audio. But I don't know if Joe is everything that we need him to be for not just 2024, but 25 and 26 and 27. If you're a loyal Biden supporter, maybe you feel good about that interview. I heard some people did feel good. Some people are still out there campaigning for Joe. But I felt I had a bad night narrative of last week didn't work this week. And Joe's not where Flossie is yet. But maybe Joe could learn like I've learned from my teacher mentor, Flossie Lewis. And I mean that. I have now gone from being not so sure to being open to Joe Biden to being it's time. It's time. And I want to bring up my friend, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus, Professor of Politics, and as well as Filipino American Studies. Let's go. Dan. Good morning, Dan. Welcome to the Saturday.
Good morning,
Hey,
sir. Good morning, sir.
so I want to there you are, Dan. So Dan,
Hello.
so what do you think? I mean, I saw the interview, and you know it's not going to be enough. You know it's not, because it might have been a little better than the debate. He was a little more,
Oh, this is a lot better.
yeah, a lot better than debate, but it just wasn't enough. And if anything, it showed that he's not as well, or he's well, but he's older than he was in 2024 or than he was in 2020.
Yeah.
But that aging process has not gone well.
He will. Yeah. I'm. I told you even before the debate, and especially after the debate, that I was really disappointed in the way the campaign is being managed.
Mm.
And it's they're continuing down the same path. Nothing has changed in terms of the rhetoric that they're using. And one of the things that's most irritating, which the president again uh, pushed in that very brief interview, was look at what I did in the last 3.5 years. And my position is, yeah, great, but I'm not worried about the last 3.5 years. I'm worried about the next 4 years and how far you can take this when when there are so many dynamics in place globally as well as nationally. And the most immediate threat to any administration this next 4 years is what's coming out of the right, the domestic American right. This is, in my personal recollection, I can't recall anything as bad as this, including McCarthyism.
Yeah.
McCarthyism was relatively short lived. The process that we're seeing come to fruition now, particularly embodied in a written document, it's called Project 2025.
Right.
You know,
Which Trump is disavowed, but it's not
yeah,
just Trump,
yeah.
it's the entire Republican
Well,
Party.
well, but see, in the same paragraph, right, in the same statement, he says, "I don't know anything about it," and then he describes three elements.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know
there's
who made it. I don't know anything about it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's not synonymous, but it could be. It could be because he's the leader. He's the leader of the Republican Party. I mean, it may just be something
Yeah.
like a Heritage
Well,
Foundation.
you know, I looked at it because I didn't want to be victimized by bias one way or the other. I looked directly at the document, and there are signatories to the chapters
Yeah,
who were the people who contributed chapters of this 930 something page document, right? It's in two freaking books. It reminds me of an encyclopedia that I recently had the honor and responsibility of contributing to. And there was so much stuff, it was two separate volumes. And this one was like that. I think it was actually not quite as long as the two encyclopedia, but it was close. So
yeah,
I looked at it. They're all people, I'd say about at least 6 out of 10, maybe 11 of the contributors were all members in some capacity or another of the Trump administration.
yeah,
So he's saying, I don't know who did it. Like, wait a minute. These people were your appointees. These people, you 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 pardoned
yeah, yeah.
several of
Well,
these people, and you're saying, I don't know.
yeah. Stephen Miller's name's on that, and
Oh my God,
immigration. I mean,
oh
he's the brain trust in terms of the right wing immigration,
yeah,
policy.
he's such a popular brain trust that somebody cold cocked him while he was
Yeah,
crossing in front of Congress.
yeah.
Remember
Well,
that? Somebody's just punched him out, man. One shot, bam.
yeah. I'm just
But he's
saying.
a tough guy. He's a tough guy, though. He's tough. He's tough.
Right,
Like,
right.
he's tough
So,
like Trump.
but let's go back to what you're saying. You're comparing the domestic rights, uh, their pathway or what they intend to do. You're comparing it to McCarthyism. How? And
McCarthyism was relatively shallow. This movement that we're seeing now, once again, embodied in the 2025 project, presidential transition is what they call it, a plan for presidential transition. Uh, this took them almost 60 years to develop. It began when they realized that television was a hot medium and that they should run somebody who would be teller friendly, right?
yeah,
And that's how we got Ronald Reagan. While I was an undergrad, I wrote a paper that suggested that's exactly what would happen because they learned their lesson from Nixon's 5 o'clock shadow, right? And it wasn't just the shadow, man. He was sweaty, okay, and let's face it, JFK was way better looking, So that was a problem. Now they built on that. They built on the problem of the Nixon administration when he finally won and he got into office and he actually secured a second term, which he left under resignation. And they said, we can recover. They had a plan to recover within one administration, and they succeeded in that, right, by nominating Ronald Reagan because it was Reagan versus Carter, okay? And Carter had enough issues, especially the economic one, and also the failure of the military attempt to rescue hostages from Iran, right?
yeah,
And so all of those things they're learning from. All during that time, they were looking at the need to stack the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, and all you have to do is look at the success of the Federalist Society, right?
right,
At at getting people onto the lower courts. They understood that if you can stack state courts first, and then if you can stack as well district courts, that's 40-50% of the battle, because the rest of it is about appeal. They succeeded at all levels, and it's most obvious now with a
Yeah.
6-3 in the SCOTUS.
Now they have the at the very top level. They've got a conservative court all throughout. And all right, so this is the backdrop.
Yes, and during the McCarthy era, he had a shallow movement.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we
and
have Project 2025 here. That's what's at stake. And while you see Joe Biden, who is not the most telegenic these days, not the most articulate, and you see him not communicating with the American public because they don't trust him. He's got a credibility. After the debate, there's a credibility
yeah,
issue with the American public, and and the the issue now by bringing up Project 2025, you're saying is, hey, it's important. The stakes are much higher. The stakes are much higher than just
absolutely.
the potential of an autocracy, the potential.
2025 has deep roots. They've got people who actually believe in this stuff. The Heritage Foundation is just the top of this pyramid. Okay,
Yeah,
they actually believe in this stuff, and you have a party, whether or not they believe fully in 2025, all of the prescriptions in 2020 Project 2025, they're willing to support it. The same way that they supported what they saw as a horrible candidate. They didn't even like Trump.
yeah.
Most thoughtful Republicans didn't even like Trump, but they knew remember how the primaries went.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, see, this is what gets me now, because now we are seeing after Joe Biden's performance in the debate and his performance on the ABC interview with Stephanopoulos, we're seeing even Democrats come out and say, "Ugh, Joe's not right." And it used to be that Democrats, in the same way that Republicans would say, "Oh, we don't like Trump, but he's a winner."
They got
Uh,
to ride him.
yeah,
He's their horse.
right. And it used to be that we would say the same thing about Biden. Uh, we don't. He may not be the best. He may be older, but he's better than Trump. He's not a liar. He's not. I mean, that used to fly, but now,
Well, it still does actually.
well,
It's
for
just
some
that
people, they're grasping. They're grasping to that idea because
yeah.
if the Republicans can do it, the Democrats can do it, and so they're hanging in there.
Oh man,
However,
what a terrible mistake that is.
I know, but see what's happened. Like, there are people like myself who look at yesterday's interview and say, "Wow." And like I said, I was talking about my mentor Flossie Lewis, who has helped me realize a thing or two about aging. And now I realize that there's got to be a better way. And but see, Joe Biden yesterday was defiant. He would not. He would not even talk about a cognitive test. He would say, "Hey, I'm tested every day. That's my
Yeah,
cognitive."
yeah.
And it's like, oh, he's not understanding or realizing, or he doesn't have the humility that people. If he showed a little humility, I think it may have worked more to encourage people to say, okay, yeah, he's not the best, but we're going to beat him. We're going to beat Trump. You know,
I agree. I
uh,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
a little humility would have worked.
yeah. He came off individualistically arrogant. You know,
Yeah,
the Jesus thing.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, be careful what you say, man, because that
yeah.
come to Jesus moment could come in very various forms.
The Almighty part, that was, I
Mhm.
didn't even want to touch that because
Yeah, yeah, I noticed. That's how come I brought it up.
yeah, I didn't. I mean, I'm Catholic and all that, just like Joe, but I just didn't think. Okay, yeah, if he thinks it's the Almighty, that's even worse. But just on talking about the self interest part. I mean, and not putting country first. I mean,
Hmm.
if he was more about policy and say, I got to put the country first. This I'm saving. I'm doing this for us. I'm doing this.
There it is. There it is. Now, a lot of his surrogates express it, the need, exactly as you just described it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
and I think that's healthy. Okay.
Yeah.
But the American public is going to be exposed to more and more and more of Joe not looking like he could last, even a year, not just 4 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they got to get serious. They really do have to get serious. If not his so-called inner circle that are calling all the shots, if not Dr. Biden, his wife,
Yeah.
okay, then it's got to be the rest of the party. And you're starting to see leading members that have been relatively quiet come forward now. I would be worried if he's looking at Senator Warren, from Virginia, who is a very accomplished senator. He does what I call the quiet work.
Yeah.
Instead of blasting around all the time and making headlines, he actually gets that stuff done on committee and everything. And
Yeah.
when somebody that serious comes forward and says, "I'm trying to organize a group of people to go see him and give him a serious talk," you got to take that seriously.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take, the inner circle has to have that. I mean, I wasn't kidding when I said the coincidence of my 100-year-old English teacher having a birthday and this national crisis has helped me to understand how we need to evaluate this. Yeah, we love,
Yeah,
we might love Joe Biden, but
yeah,
we don't love him like a king because this isn't a monarchy. If it were a monarchy, we'd love him like King Charles. No matter what he did to Diana. You know, I mean, we would love him because he's king. You know, I mean, there's still some people won't
I think it
forgive
was
him.
more like what he didn't do to Diana. But anyway,
Well, yeah, well, it's both. It's both. He could have been better. He could have in a lot of ways, but what he did to her, and then we let his mistress be the queen. Oh my God,
yeah,
how.
it wasn't. Oh man, that was awful.
But I'm saying when you have a monarchy and that's what you're supposed to do, the traditionalists follow suit and they say, "Oh, God save the king," and yeah, we're not there yet with Joe. We're not there in
Well,
America.
we were almost there. See, if Ronald Reagan wasn't looking a little weaker, in his second term, I think people would have been able to go forward and say, "Hey, you know what? We need to amend that Constitution thing.
Yeah,
We need Ronnie himself rather than George W."
we'll put
You
up
know,
King Cadaver up there, and and then,
that's
well,
that's pretty. Save that one. Save that one for your show, dude. that
there
was, that
there
was
was there was one person, or I know where I read it, but they were talking. People were freaking out in the Biden staff, and someone was saying, that Biden looked dead, and I
oh,
thought, wow,
man,
and that's
during
one
the
of the
debate.
things.
Which time though? During the debate,
No, just in general, that there's a time when I've seen people describe Biden's walk as zombie-like. Now, here's the thing: I'm not a. I approach this more journalistically rather than as a partisan, but I clearly have my perspective. But I think we just have to look at this as here's the aging process. Is Joe Biden accepting the reality of his condition? And
yeah, yeah.
if he's not, and everyone else is, then we have a problem
I think
because
my last communication with you, my last text expressed exactly that. That,
yeah,
that he is clearly not in public terms, and so my thing is, I think he knows. He knows, but
you
he
know,
thinks he has to. He has no choice, right? But
yeah,
to project strength, and it's true. He has no choice but to do that. And I think now would be terrible timing for him to say, okay, I understand what everybody's coming from, and I think we have some viable replacement candidates for the top of the ticket, and so I'm going to slide out now and gracefully. This is bad timing. I mean, he
yeah.
should do that after he gets the nomination, after the convention.
Yes, I think you're right. I think look, you know, my what I learned from Flossie Lewis aside, she's not running for president, and this
But
is
you should.
she should. No, this is world politics, right? This is international world politics, and uh, everything the president does is important, which is why you got to have someone who is on, you know,
Yep.
is sharp and on point at all times.
Yep.
Because when you're not on point, they're going to make a big deal about it. Like remember when Obama suddenly wore a tan suit instead of a blue suit. You know, it just gets blown out of proportion. You can't. So you always have to be
Uh,
on your best, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
so here's the thing. You're right, but this is a bad time for Biden to cop to this.
He has to show strength right now.
Yeah. But I bet you there's got to be some people in his inner circle who are saying, okay,
Plan B.
yeah, we got to create a scenario where he continues on, he holds on until, and like you said, once it's locked in, although who knows, some people are calling for an open convention, some people are saying no, we're not going in, although hey, the delegates are Biden's
Yeah,
until he releases them.
overwhelming. Yeah.
The money is Biden and Harris until they release it, and people can revolt, and that's not going to be a good look for the third party folks and for the party in general. But if Biden gets through the convention, then you go to Plan B.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, and
Or you make the convention a coronation, and say yeah, and now we're
uh,
gonna flip it here, and
oh
we're
man,
gonna have everyone unified against unified with Kamala.
yeah, yeah.
She's gonna be
Well, see, that's why people want to do the open convention thing, and that's one position is rather than have him take the nomination and then say, okay, but I got to roll now, okay, and then in effect, right, handing it off to Kamala. People are saying, you know, that's not strong enough. Kamala has to earn it, and they think that having an open convention and having her compete against other folks, especially the governors, right? There's at least 3 or 4 governors that I think
yeah.
are capable, and maybe 1 or 2 senators that are
Yeah.
capable. And so, by going through that testing ground, that she would earn, right, the nomination, and that she would therefore earn a stronger position in the actual general election, in the
Uh,
presidential election.
I think it's not risky from the standpoint of the overall race. I think it's just risky from the standpoint of a united Democratic Party
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
because you're going to rip each other up August, September, and then go in October, November looking to unite. Uh, it's far better to say we got our ticket. It's Biden Harris, but soon
yeah,
to be Harris and X.
yeah.
And then you go in somewhat united, although people are disgruntled. But then people have got to remember, hey, look, this isn't about Joe. Remember, this is about our
Yeah.
country. And if it's not about Joe and it's about our country, then you can live with this because we're saving democracy. And that, I think, that's plausible. And also, it's I think that passes at the test for me. Although some people would still say, no, that's not democratic enough. But would putting a white man in there instead of Kamala, would that be democratic enough? Would that be, I mean, replacing Kamala Harris if she is heir apparent? If you replaced her with Andy Bashir, I mean, he's conservative, but he's young, untested. Or maybe Pritzker, he's got money. Newsom, I think Gretchen Whitmer, you put Gretchen Whitmer in there instead of Kamala, I think people would be upset that, hey, you had a black South Asian vice president and you bypassed her for a white woman. Oh, I guess you wanted to feel what affirmative action has been like for people of color in general, bypassed by white women.
Ooh,
So
ooh.
I I think
I don't think. Do you think your audience and most people understand what you just said about it? It happens to be factual,
yeah.
right?
Well, I don't know. I don't know who my audience is. We have a secret audience,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but
Well,
I just think that you might need Whitmer to get Michigan, but at this point, everything's up in
I
play.
don't know, man. You got a lot of reactionary stuff in Michigan.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Anti Whitmer.
yeah, but she's the governor, and
She's
she
good.
might.
She's competent, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how. If you look at the reality of Joe Biden's history, I don't think there's a comparable person in terms of his understanding of the international, of the global dynamics. He's really good when it comes to that, very experienced. And it's hard to find somebody that's a good replacement for that. The only other person that I can remember that would have, in fact, was the strongest element was Hillary Clinton. You know,
Uh, yeah,
and look how she got treated, right?
yeah, but
People completely ignored her
yeah.
skill set, and then blamed an incident at one of the embassies, right?
Because here's what you said earlier. It's not about the skill set. It's not about how good you are
That's right.
in real logical terms. It's, hey, do you look good? Do you say it well? Do
There
you
it
look at
is.
it well? Are you
And
charming? Are you funny? Are you good with the small talk? If you're good with the small talk, you'll be good with the big talk. Hey, look, folks. I mean that's Biden's line. Look, folks, and then he said we're at an inflection point because now this is what Biden needs now. Biden is looking for an inflection point.
yeah,
He's down
yeah.
here. He's looking for that inflection point to go that'll zing him up there. I don't know if there's enough things
No. I mean,
to get him an inflection point.
if he stripped off his shirt and there was a big, golden S on his chest, and
Yeah.
he could fly, that might help.
But you know what? Biden just needs to hang on to the convention, get enough people who are
Yeah,
just yes people saying yeah, 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 and then I think then he can. Well, you got to hope he doesn't let it go to his head that I'm Joe Biden, I can do anything. But who knows? He's this way now in July.
yeah,
What is it going to be like in September? And what would it be like if the October surprise is Joe Biden saying, I can't go on?
yep.
The
That'd be hell.
October surprise.
It would be hell. It would be what some people are asking for now. It would lead up to an open convention,
Not
but
in October.
well, I'm sorry, it's already over. You're right, but
Yeah.
it would lead up to something like the possibility of an open convention, even though it's over. People might be saying, "Well, now let's open it up to everybody," right? And
And
that could really be messy as hell. Like,
Democrats would be stupid to do that if the ticket were intact and it was just some episode
yeah,
that happens and Biden came to his, to,
I think Biden has to be in on the plan. That's number one, and number two, by the time of the convention, everybody has to be in on the plan. The
uh,
leadership have to be in on the plan. They got to be solid.
that,
If they're not, man, we're looking at
but
chaos
that,
city.
but being in on the plan sounds so devious, right? I mean, it's not.
Well, I've been charged with being devious, so
Well, look, I forgive me. Devious is being political.
thank you.
Politics,
See,
right?
one of us actually served in the halls of Congress, and
Yes,
therefore was very much witness to what you call deviousness. I
well,
call, and you just said it's just being political,
yeah.
and I agree with that.
Well, there are lies, like people say there are lies and there are damn lies. Well, everyone to an extent lies. We lie to be nice. We lie to get things over. We lie, and sometimes lies are not as bad if they serve a purpose that is a good purpose. Everyone will like this
Yeah,
lie.
what's your motive? What's your motive? Don't ask the Supreme Court though,
Yeah,
because if you lie and you're a former president, they don't want to hear the motive.
yeah.
There's no
But
evidence of motive that can be presented, there's just absolute immunity.
Yeah. Well, right. Well, the thing about the lie is it's sort of like the lie that tells the truth. But if your lie doesn't match up with your truth and you're out of sync, then people will notice and they'll say that's a lie, and then they'll shut you down. They won't believe you. Have a credibility issue. Credibility, right? You lie to the point of credibility.
Okay. Okay.
And
Well,
then,
yeah.
if it's a credible lie, then yeah, people are with you. And then, but you're lying, right? And because you got a plan, you
Well,
got a
see, the
plan.
majority of Americans probably react in the way that you're suggesting. The majority, and it was clear that popular vote
Yeah,
indicated that in 2016 and 2020, and popular vote indicated that in all of the midterm elections since 2016, right?
yeah,
But the Republicans still won the Senate, during the Obama administration, and so for the last 6 years, even if there was a close division in the House, they were able to stop everything. They all they had to do was be the party of no, as Professor, I call him Professor, but President Obama,
yeah.
said, and that's the way it went. And so now the lines are much more clear cut. We have all kinds of evidence that points to the reality that members of Congress were engaged and involved in the planning of
Uh,
January 6th.
so then, look, if it's a planning, it sounds like it's some kind of conspiracy.
That was my position, and people said, "Man, you're really way off. I mean, you're just so radical."
Yeah,
No,
well,
man,
that's
that
because
stuff had to happen. There's no way that could have been pulled off
yeah,
without some complicity by people. I mean, Holly, what that guy, right? Another elite educated lawyer, right? Uh,
mhm.
and
Which,
anyway, he what did he do? He gives a fist, you know, to
you're
people that
talking,
were marching
about
on the day on January 6th, or the day before. I think it was January 5th.
you're talking about the Missouri guy,
Yeah, Holly.
Holly. Yeah, having a Biden moment.
There's nothing like no, but you got to go slack jaw. You got to yeah. Well, not quite that wide open. There you go. That's better. That's a little better.
Yeah.
And that's what bothered me, man. It was that. Wait a minute.
Holly. I kept thinking of like Bobby Holly,
No,
Bobby Hull,
yeah, yeah.
Holly. L-E-Y.
HAWLEY. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
no,
guy.
Holly. Yeah, Yale trained. Yale,
Yeah. He clear and
smart guy.
he knocked Claire McCaskill,
Yeah,
who was one of
right.
the great senators, knocked
She
her out.
was.
Yeah,
You
and
know, Holly. Yeah, a lot of those guys. They're just survivors. You know. Uh,
well, but they keep getting elected. So you got to you have to look at the electorate,
I
and
played that.
that's what we're doing now.
Well,
So we get a majority of people in America that want to vote for Biden, right?
yeah,
The problem is that they're also seeing the reality the way that we're seeing it. They're trying to be objective. A lot of the better voters, but you have this large number of Democrats, right, who love the guy so much that they're willing to ride with him.
right. And you're getting to the point here. If you want to vote for Biden but can't, then it becomes a question of you got to vote for country. You got to vote for your country
That's
first.
precisely it. Yeah,
And
it's kind of gross, huh? It's kind of
yeah,
gross that it comes down to you got to make that choice, if for no other reason to avoid. Uh, it's not more than chaos. It's to
yeah.
avoid the calamity
And
that comes.
the anti-democratic forces of the Republicans and the stupidity of Biden. Or not Biden, but Trump. Here's the real fear of Trump. Not that he's stupid, which he is, but he's manipulable. And he surrounds himself with people, you know, they know how to play to an audience of one. And he will Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He's not ideological. He's he's just for Trump. Whatever sounds good. And
Well, he's
people,
sociopathic. Okay, he's at least sociopathic, if
yeah,
not psychopathic, right? He's
yeah,
sociopathic, and so it's really predictable what his behavior and his consistent thought pattern is going to be.
yeah.
But I as much as I want to call him stupid, I can't agree with you on that. I think he's limited, but
Okay,
there are certain directions of thought and behavior where he actually is pretty smart.
right. He's cunning. He's
Yeah.
cunning.
Yes.
He's not stupid, but he's cunning in the way that a to use Joe Biden's
Mhm.
analogy, he's got the morals of an alley cat, which I hate to really defame cats there, but in some ways, alley cats, they survive. I got an alley cat.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
you got
my alley cat. We saved her. She didn't really want to be an alley cat. She really wanted to be a suburban mom cat,
right, right.
suburban soccer mom cat. But alley cats are alley cats because they do what they need to do to survive, and she did, and now she's ripping up all our furniture. And
Yeah, we
but
got they got a spray for that, man.
yeah,
you can put a spray on there.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
called bourbon. Yeah.
yeah. Watch
No,
out.
no,
Try
yeah,
vodka because it doesn't stain.
yeah, catnip. Hey, no, but you're right. I think Trump is stupid because he's got these cockamamie ideas, but he's
Yeah,
you know,
no, I think that's crazy.
yeah.
I think he's crazy in that regard. Okay, and
Yeah.
that fits with sociopath.
So
Pathic.
the fear, yeah, but there's still fear. There's still fear, and there's still plenty of justification not to vote for Trump, and if you vote for country and say Joe Biden at least stands for country. See, Joe Biden stood for himself in that Stephanopoulos interview. He didn't say I
Yeah,
got to do it for us. I got to do it.
he had the opportunity to do it,
He could have just a few
and
more sentences. Yeah, a sentence, right?
he went with
Yeah,
I me, and
yeah. And
that
I think that but he's going to hang in. Do you think he's going to survive the weekend?
was.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
there
you
are
mean
all these meetings being held.
yeah, yeah? No, he'll survive. It's all they have to do. All his interset has to do is limit his exposure and try and time what he does and what he says. But like I said, it's inevitable that it's not going to work out all the
Yeah.
time. It didn't work out for this interview, and it was a 22-minute set. Predictably, Stephanopoulos, I think he asked the right questions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
I I and as I point out in my column on in the Aldef blog, aldef.org/blog, the question where he said, critics say that, Trump is being, you know, putting himself first by staying in. You're doing the same thing. What do you say to that? I mean, that was really pretty clear. I mean, because
yeah.
he could have said, "Hey, I'm country first all the time. I'm America first." You know,
Well, I thought the most biting question was, okay, January 2025, and the other side wins.
yeah,
What do you think about yourself?
yeah,
And he said, I gave it my all. That
yeah,
that
but
was that's good enough.
yeah,
While the whole country's going to go down the well-known latrine.
yeah. I mean, like half a bottle of Geritol is not going to do it. We're going to have to.
You're really aging yourself now, man. I mean, nobody knows who's going to be familiar with that freaking brand.
Hey, come on, you can't find Geritol anywhere.
I have never seen it. I haven't seen that stuff for 30 years, dude. So
Hey, Geritol. They had the amateur hour. They brought the amateur hour.
they were one of the you're bringing up all kinds of memories of the original game shows, right? That have been duplicated over and over again, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look what a genius NBC is that bringing back Password, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
great
Password.
classic game. It's a great classic game, and they've made it a little bit more comical because the people who run it are comics, right? And
And
writing.
they're young. It's a
Yeah,
younger
yeah,
generation.
yeah.
But
And,
but how
and,
about
it's yeah, I watch it. It's fun. It's really fun. It reminds me of the old days, but at the same time, it reflects uh, present culture, right?
right, right?
So
So you say the password is Eritol. Aging.
oh
The
no!
password is
Yeah, the
no. How
password
about
would have
this
to be
game? There was a
password would
game
have
on.
to be shrooms.
Yeah. There was a game on Fox. You see that game where I know it's sort of like you answer a trivia question, and then you go up on a platform,
Oh,
and
the balls.
yeah, and the balls come down and they knock you into a
Yeah,
pool.
yeah. No,
It's
I've never watched that.
it's
It was too much of a gimmick for me. So
It is, but you see, like this is the thing about updating games. Like you had to update a trivia game, but it's not enough to get the right answer. You have to get an. You have to. If you fail to get the right answer, you have to
you're at
be
risk.
threatened by being hit from
That's right.
behind,
That's right.
unknowingly by a huge ball. Oh, that's
Into
not
water.
enough to
Yeah,
knock
into
you down.
water.
You got to go into the water.
Yeah, yeah. Regardless of your swimming ability, no life
Right,
jacket.
right.
Yeah,
You could die. This is
yeah.
life or death. So this is summer fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah, summer game, summer. Yeah,
Okay, so Project 2025. What do we tell? We tell people read a summary. Try and find an objective summary of Project 2025
yeah.
because you really got to understand what's at stake. And once you understand that, no matter what Biden's
Ability.
position is, if
Yeah,
if he goes forward or not, you got to vote
yeah.
for the
Well, voting.
Democrats. You have to do it.
Here's the thing, and this is why I do this because uh, I may have worked inside the halls of Congress once, very briefly. I may have worked in the media. Yeah, I may have. I still write my columns for the Aldif blog. I may have. You know, people need to know that regular Asian American types, Filipino American types, non-white, non-elitist types are out there talking about this, and it's important. It's
Yep.
important to our lives, and it's not just some figure, some amorphous. Oh, the people of America, or the diverse people of America. They have to see regular people who aren't white, who aren't members of some elite class talking about this because it's important. And if they see that, then
Yeah.
maybe they'll say, "Yeah, these issues are important." But a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are still look. It's Fourth of July weekend. A lot of people are, you know, they think the toughest decision they have to make is Impossible Burger or Beyond Burger. What?
Chestnut lost his. Yeah, he can't do the big contest anymore for a
Oh
while.
yeah, Joey Chestnut. Well,
Yeah,
he works for. He's an Impossible guy, but he's
yeah,
coming
yeah,
back.
yeah.
He's going to do the pay per view.
Yeah, we'll see what. Yeah, oh yeah, but I don't know how much money that one makes. But
Well,
anyway, you make a terrific point. But see, the problem that I have with the man on the street coverage,
Mm,
that the media sometimes, all of the media channels, right, all of them,
yeah.
left, right, center, it doesn't matter. They do an occasional person on the street. I think the better things are the panels because you get a more depth of discussion
Oh yeah.
when they have panels of voters, of potential
Oh
voters.
yeah. No, I think those kind of focus groups are good too.
Yeah,
But I'm not saying you got to do man on the street, but I'm just saying that you need to hear from people like us. You need to see people who are not white, not elitist, not involved in the democratic process. From a professional standpoint, just regular folks talking about these things because the issues are real. And the big thing is, when people talk about the economy, and then you see the numbers showing, oh, jobless rate is down, more jobs out there, economy actually stronger than we
the
think.
Democrats. So I agree with you. The Democrats have been making data-driven arguments, okay,
Yeah,
but it's not working.
yeah,
The, the, the majority of the public still thinks that the Republicans would do a better job, that Trump would do a better job. I mean, And so then the Democrats react to that by saying, well, let's take a look at the reality.
Yeah.
Okay, were we better off 4 years ago? And then they show that. And people still think that,
Well, because they have this aspirant's vision that, okay, Trump and the Republicans are working for the regular guy, but they're only working for the rich. And so, to the extent that some of that, the largesse that goes to the rich after Republican tax cuts, if they ever trickle down, and we know that's been, debunked, do you feel better? And right now, I would say most people that they'll take a simpler gauge. Am I paying more at the grocery store? Am I paying more for
exactly,
gas? Am I
exactly.
paying more? That's the
Well,
barometer for them.
so I would add to what you said earlier that our communities have to see people that look like them and that come from similar circumstances, right? And they have to make those statements. I think we have to go one better, or at least from my perspective, is one better. You mentioned people who had a professional stake in things. I think we need to hear from them too, because some of the most effective leaders in our community are attached to, we work on campaigns, so they're very visible as workers on campaigns. I what I'm saying is we got to look at people not because they're working on campaigns and therefore being surrogates. We need to look at people who also are willing to take an objective stance, who are leaders recognized in the community because of their own level of accomplishment. We don't see enough of that. We see
No.
people, working as surrogates who have high levels of accomplishment within the community and in the greater society, but they're not making detailed statements. Okay.
Well, or if they're making statements at all, they're kind of like still arm's length away. Maybe, maybe they make a contribution. Maybe if they can, and that, like the news this week, not so good for our Filipino golden boy, because in the you know Attorney General Banta seems to have gotten into the thing with Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao in terms of getting contributions from this Asian,
Yeah, the Duang
the Duong family
family.
who run the California Waste Solutions. They got the contract in Oakland. Was it pay to play? I guess people are investigating the ethics commissions or the ethics concerns of California, and I think the local ones in Oakland are looking into seeing if there are any violations. But apparently, and this is how all the players play, right? They
Yeah.
give to Republicans, they give to Democrats, they give to everybody. And then,
Okay.
I mean,
It's called Virginia Bet.
you go to opensecrets.org, find out who gave to whom, and you'll see that, hey, big corporations, they'll give to everyone. Very few give only to Republicans. Rich ones like the casino owner Adelson, right? They give only to the Republicans. The Koch brothers only to Republicans.
Well, is that Asian American coalition that does 80/20? Is that still alive? Do you know?
I don't know if
Maybe.
80/20 is, but there's a victory fund. There's other Asian American uh, funding outfits. But when people who, as individuals, give donations, if they are new at it, they can get into trouble when they give to everybody, and then they like wink, wink, ask for favors. That's a question. And so Bonta was on the list of, his wife Mia, who's an assemblywoman. Uh, they took money from Duong as well, and now they're coming out saying, "Hey, we're going to donate all this money to charity," which I guess is okay, but it just shows you how the system works and how the system is kind of, uh,
Yeah, but people, okay, and this is a point that we've been making ever since we were kids.
yeah,
I mean, when we were uh, beyond the start of our respective careers, we were getting some recognition, for it, for some of our accomplishments, but we were still like in our late 20s, early 30s, right? And so, I mean, when we look back at that, for me, that's 50 years back,
yeah.
and um, we've done a lot since then that we actually don't talk about that much, because it's part of the work. You get to do that because you're a journalist, you're a columnist, right? So you're both a person who can express opinion on the one hand, and you're also a responsible journalist that is committed to being fact-based, renderer of information. And so we gotta. I'm bound by the same rules,
Mhm.
and even more restrictive, I think, is the reality that you don't want to make students feel as though you're pushing a particular perspective.
Right,
That
right.
that that is
Uh,
not what a lot of my colleagues do,
yeah,
especially in the College of Ethnic Studies. There's a particular perspective that they want to push. I would rather, the Socratic method. I would rather have people come up with questions that they can work towards answering themselves and then come to their own conclusion. That takes time and a lot of effort. It's really strenuous. And it's very much more difficult nowadays because of the cultural gap
yeah,
between the kinds of cultural references that we might make to show parallels or distinctions, and contradictions with the hip hop, the post hip hop generation, right?
yeah, yeah. Hey, speaking of hip hop,
Okay, here
did
we
you
go.
notice on July 4th they're showing um, they're showing artists, musical artists on the different news shows
Yeah.
and performing, and it struck me when I saw these white guys do hip hop, like Kid Leroy. I mean, it struck me that they have popped up hip hop, so it's hip hop pop from a white perspective. It's not even Eminem, and they show the crowd bottle rock or rock.
Eminem is serious though. I mean,
I know
you know,
Eminem is serious rapper,
he's not pretend. Yeah,
but this not that the Kid Leroy is Ice Cube or not Ice Cube, but what is it? Ice? What is it? Vanilla Ice? He's not, but he's sort of like the second coming of Vanilla Ice. That's what it struck me, and it was like, oh my god, just like people claim that the white rockers stole from the blues men, we're seeing another generation of white guys adopting hip hop rhythm.
What's new, man?
I know.
What's new?
Well, yeah.
You know,
So
we should we could do a trivia show, and we could do stuff on the black music being modified or adapted, by
oh yeah,
white folks, and half of the answers would be who was Pat Boone.
who is Pat
You know,
Boone? Yeah,
yeah,
right. Well, I mean that was the thing. Pat
you
Boone.
know, we listen
Um,
to black radio, and you'd hear "Good Golly, Miss Molly," Little Richard, and he'd be pounding away on the piano and stuff, and then you'd hear Pat Boone's version, and it was freaking laughable.
yeah.
But
Well,
he sold records.
that's why you got to stick with the Jerry Lee Lewis, version, even though he was of questionable morals.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, look,
No, no, he would have been part of the Trump Club. He
yeah,
would have been right in there. Right?
I just, when you said that, I saw that on July 4th.
Oh yeah.
So look, I think you're right. I think, we try to stay like I don't give any money to anybody
Oh
because
man, geez.
I feel like, if I gave money to someone, I don't talk about him.
Right,
Because
right.
if I want to talk about him, I can't give money because then,
That's
I'll have a
yeah,
bias.
yeah.
But if I, if I don't want to talk about him, but I want to support him, I'll give money. But there's been no one. A friend of mine ran one time for Congress, and he lost. He should have won, but he lost to replace Barbara Boxer. And he still writes, but he's
Hmm.
not in that position of power. It looked like where maybe some people from the left had a way to go in there. Like the same excitement that people had when they saw Bernie Sanders run. And now
Mhm,
look at
mhm.
how, is
Yeah,
Sanders as effective as he could be, should be. He's still kind of isolated. Um, anyway, but
yeah. But he's an oldie too. I mean,
yeah,
he's
he's old.
he's
But
the old generation.
the thing that got us into this, so we're talking about donations and giving money.
Yeah, that's right.
you know, I think it's important to speak out, and if you don't speak out, give money. But it's important to be part or be seen as part of the process. And I think one thing about the Duongs is I don't I don't I don't mind who they give money to. They give money just as long as they stay within the rules.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that
you're hitting
also,
on an extremely important point. The reason I mentioned, our youth earlier is because we were already talking about the fact you got to get money out of it, out of elections. And there was actually a serious attempt. There were two or three serious attempts coming out of the Senate, right, that were bipartisan attempts to harness political contributions, right? And the ones that I remember involved Ted Kennedy at
yeah.
least twice, right? And
Mm,
he had Republican co-authors, and I think in one instance it was McCain.
yeah.
And then there was Feingold, right?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah. The Feingold bill. Yeah, and
yeah,
Feingold. Look at Feingold. He just sort of disappeared.
yeah, he got burned because he got burned, and I think he got burned largely because both parties can't see a way. Even the Democrats, the Democrats are more disposed to put controls right on
Yeah,
political contributions, but even they know that they're completely dependent on it because the other guys are predisposed to take as much money as they can in any way that they can, right?
yeah.
So here we are. We're in a place where dark money can come from frickin' Mars. You
You
know,
just don't know. You just don't know. It's
super
they.
PAC. All you
Yeah,
got to do is kick it to a super PAC, and you're undisclosed.
and this is capitalism's democracy, where the money
Hey,
rules no matter where it comes from, and this is what we got to fight against. I mean, because
yeah,
it used to be the grassroots. The grassroots have been eliminated because of that kind of thing.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
The only thing that we have left is the actual vote. That's the only thing we have left.
Yeah.
And that vote is so much affected by hot media investment, right?
Yeah.
Because of campaign funding.
Yeah,
So
and it's going to get worse too. It only gets worse with
yeah,
AI
yeah,
and social media and
yep.
the way information is distributed and the way that no one can trust anything they see anymore.
Well, as soon as we're done today, I'm going to go look and see how some of the cities that have put down hard limits, right, on campaign contributions have been doing. And I think Seattle was one of them that they
Yeah,
had, yeah. And so I got to check and see how they're doing. I know we've done that to a certain extent, but and we certainly need to do that in California overall.
yeah,
there's just so much money, man, being thrown at campaigns. It's ridiculous.
and that's the thing. Politics shouldn't be that way. I would like a kind of modified term limits, where people don't stay. I mean, this would solve a couple problems because then you'd have, more fluctuation of reasonable fluctuation amongst the leaders, but you wouldn't have a Biden situation where someone ages in place. You'd have,
Eh,
you'd
yeah.
have, yeah. I mean, because look, if Biden was a congressman or a senator, he could have stayed in there just like Feinstein, and people just automatically vote, automatically vote. I mean, there are people like I was in Washington the other day, Washington State. Maria Cantwell. Well, she did well. I don't know what she's done, but she just stays there, and she's made it a life, a career. Doing what? I don't know. I hope she serves her people well, but she's just an automatic. You know, uh, Patty Murray a little better, but I just think that term limits not a bad idea if you can get a reasonable sense of how long can one stay in that job. All right, so that's one, and then term limits also. I don't know how that related to campaign finance, but I had a connector. It was connected. I'm
Well,
having my
there is an immediate connector, and that is the incumbent,
the incumbency.
the
Yeah,
rule of incumbency. So there is an immediate connection, and
yeah.
I gave it to you.
The incumbents get the
Well,
money. They get the money.
that's it. They represent to a certain extent stability, right?
Yeah.
And when you come down to it, when something is really money oriented, it's akin to investment in the stock market.
Yeah.
And what the market likes, and everybody will tell you this, it's Econ 100, right? The market likes stability, okay,
Yeah.
predictability,
Yeah.
and the same thing is true of a money oriented political system, a campaign system.
All right. As long as we're talking about money, all right. Where do you think the market's going to go if Trump wins?
Uh, I think there'll be an initial. The probability is that there will be an initial climb, okay, and then if any of the policies that Trump has in mind or
Then
that 2025 has in mind,
come
if
down.
they actually start to enact some of those, there could be a market dump that you've like never seen before. Uh,
So exuberance if he wins in November,
yeah,
but it
the
won't be over.
initial exuberance.
Yeah. I mean, because you got to certify the election, right?
That's right,
And it'll take until January, right?
right. Hmm.
So who knows what he's going to be talking about in
That's
October
right.
or in December, and who knows what the reaction will be like.
Yeah,
So
everybody, but they still, earlier you were talking about why, people favor Trump as a guy who can remedy their pains
yeah,
about, how much it costs to live, in American society, instead of looking at the fact that a lot of those costs are the result of a capitalist system, right? That they don't have any freaking control over, right?
right.
And so yeah, one of the frustrating things that people feel in economic terms is the lack of control. So one thing is, yeah, it costs too much, but the other thing is I can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
Okay, I can't do anything about it. But instead of saying why can't I do anything about it and taking a half step forward and trying to understand that that's capitalism, right? I can't
yeah.
look at housing. I can't. Well, that's
Can't afford the
capitalism,
down payment.
you
Hey,
know.
hey, well, so all right now that's if Trump wins. If Biden, well, we don't even know if Biden's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
But if Biden wins, more exuberance, less exuberance.
I think it'll be flat initially.
But yeah,
People will wait and see. Okay, but the kind of housing projects that some of the people in the Biden administration that have not, by the way, been sufficiently played up.
mhm,
Okay, they
right,
mention investment money, right? Billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars towards new housing and all that. That would have a massive effect, you know,
yeah,
on American society. It would have a massive positive effect on the economy
yeah,
because so right now, look at what happened with infrastructure, right? Now that that's starting to happen and people are seeing payoffs from that, not only the immediate terms jobs, right, for
mhm,
construction, but also upgrade of the industrial process,
yeah.
of the market processes having to do with supply, right, and transportation and all that.
So
And
ultimately, it could be a good thing. I mean,
yeah,
if Biden wins or the Democrats, who knows? I
well,
mean, to,
every time they get into a presidential, Democratic presidential administration, the economy does better.
yeah,
But historically, it's really clear. The data is clear. Okay, but Republicans have always used, the business orientation. I mean, they keep saying, yeah, 70% of the American economy and jobs are created not by government, but they're created by small business. Okay, but then when you go to business classes, one of the things that they don't want to tell you is that 75% of new businesses fail within the first 2 years. So why is it that they're failing? Once again, American public doesn't step forward and say, okay, who's doing a better job, right? Of assisting small businesses past the first 2 years so they become ongoing positive contributors to the society in terms of both hiring people to good paying jobs where they can afford to also ascend in the economy and all that.
yeah, yeah.
There's another issue coming up now. People are now talking about the need for skilled labor. Right?
Oh, that's going to mean immigration. We're going to need immigration
Yeah,
or
but
better education.
they're going to be taking black jobs, man.
or
You know,
better
one
education.
of the best responses I heard to that was an African American congresswoman saying, "Yeah, well, I got to get my ass back to work on my black job."
Yeah. Hey, my Filipino job. Yeah, I got to
My wife
get this.
said, "Oh yeah, I just retired from my brown job." we all
Yeah.
we all say, "What kind of a job was that?"
All right. So, Dan, look, all right. So, we didn't solve anything in terms of Biden. I mean, I think we're both closer to the fact that Biden should go.
Yeah, yeah.
It's tough, but I still want to give him the grace to accept it and then define it on his own
Well, we're
terms.
stuck anyway. I mean, we're stuck either way because it's his decision to make. That's
Yeah.
where we're at.
Yeah.
It's his decision to make. And then, regardless of who the hell it is, that's at the top of the ticket, people got to understand. This is like standing at the edge of a cliff and saying, "Do I jump or not?" And you got to turn around and save yourself, man. Don't go off the edge, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be really careful right now. It
So
is that threatening. I don't think they understand that. I don't think they
the,
understand how threatening this is.
the threat to our nation if a Trump presidency becomes a reality, because Biden is going to be the last. He's like we're in the 400 relay, and he's the anchor runner.
Oh God! Oh my God! I that
I mean,
my right now I have a video reel going, and
yeah,
and I'm visualizing that race, and it
yeah.
and it
I
is
mean, so
man,
you're passing the you want
the
you want Joe Biden to be
baton, man.
the last leg.
Where is that freaking thing? It's around here somewhere.
Hey, look, and I mentioned it because he said,
Oh,
"Look, I don't run the 100 like I used to." Right? What was that? He mentioned
yeah,
running
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yesterday
yeah.
on the ABC cast.
Yeah, I'm a little bit,
He said,
I'm a little
"I
bit
don't run
scared.
like I used to,
Yeah,
but that's what it is. He's running the anchor leg,
yeah.
and for us, that's what the president does.
Wow.
And
That's good.
we
That
want him.
imagery is going to stick with me for days now.
Well, the athletic imagery is for use any metaphor.
Well, it's Olympics time, so
Yeah.
it's perfect. I mean,
Right.
your timing and your context is quite good, frankly.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm just saying that um, I mean, I've thought about Clay Thompson leaving the Warriors
Yeah,
as a way that I make.
it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, we
make
could tell
amends with
2 years
losing.
ago it was going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I make amends with losing Biden, or by Biden stepping back and not staying on, but letting go. He can't let go. He can't let go, and he needs to let go. And the way I deal with it is I think of all the great players that I admired, who were with the team and now no longer, like Clay Thompson, and I say, yeah,
Yeah. How's he going to take care of his water fix, though? I mean, he loved
hey,
cruising on the bay, and
there's Lake Garland in Garland, Texas.
yeah. How big is that sucker? Is it big enough to?
Like
You know,
Stowe Lake in Golden Gate
he's
Park.
got.
Yeah. No, actually, there's Lake Lewis, in the mid cities area in Louisville, Texas. I lived in Texas, so I know these things.
Sure, yeah,
No,
yeah.
Lake Lewis, or I think Louisville, near Lewis.
I've actually seen pictures of that, and it is pretty big. You
Yeah,
know,
that's a big. They got reservoirs, and then he can always go to Austin and to Willie Nelsonville and then there's I guess you can go to the Gulf, but that's a ways from
pretty.
Dallas.
That's a haul.
That's a
That's a
haul.
haul
But
from
Lake,
Memphis.
yeah, Lake
Memphis, man.
Lewis, and there's a lot of lakes in Dallas. Small, but you get your jollies off with your boat. You're not captain of the bay. You're not the
Yeah,
captain
man. I
of the bay.
mean, I miss it. I miss my cousin's sloop. Really.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Well, I was never a big boat person, but I like to look at them. I like to ride them when people had them. And
Yeah, well, that's the way to be. I
right,
like to crew because I didn't have to own it, and I had to pay the berthing fees and all the rest of that stuff. I contributed, to
yeah,
maintenance,
yeah,
and I was the official mechanic and all that. But I sorely miss it.
yeah.
you
It's
know.
fun out there, and look, for me, I mean, it's fun if you can go out there every day and scoot around in a boat, whatever boat, sailboat, stink pot. Even the stink pots are okay. But I had a friend had a little speedboat, and we went around the bay. Man, that was fun. That
Yeah,
was
it's a
just,
blast.
just going from the southernmost part of the bay all the way up to you know I guess it was what up in Marin
Yeah,
to Bill Valley or
Richardson Bay.
whatever.
Yeah, up by Richardson Bay.
Yeah, up there, or closer to Tiburon or something like that.
Oh,
And
that's a nice cruise.
yeah, and I mean, well, no, we were in a stink pot. We were in a little speedboat,
Okay.
and that
Yeah,
was that
no, I
was
mean
just
that's cool. I
that
mean,
was just fun, just going back and forth, and I only did it. I think we only did it once or twice years ago. I mean, it's not like I do this all the time, but that was a memory. That's how much of a landlubber I am. I'm not a
yeah,
not a
we
one.
were out there all the time. We had 3 or 4 people within a friendship circle
Oh, that's
that,
cool.
that all had sailboats.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, and so I got the chance to crew for a lot of different boats, and they were all sailboats, and only the latest one, and that was my cousin's boat, had a lot of assistance mechanics because as we were aging, right,
Yeah,
all of that stuff is harder to haul.
yeah, yeah.
So he got a boat that had a roller reefer main, and it had also a roller jib. The main
Yeah.
foresail was roller.
Oh, welcome to Boat Talk.
Oh, it was nice, man. But anybody out there has got boat, hit my hit
Dan
up
wants to
my
go. Dan wants to
hit
go.
up, yeah, hit up my email and we'll
I'll
set
bring
that up. Now,
and me.
okay,
I'll
so we
give
gotta
sailor hats to
we
everyone.
I you know what I want to do. I want you to promise that what we're going to do is we're going to talk to people privately again about campaign finance reform.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right,
We
let's
got
do
to get
that.
that
Let's do it.
going. So
Campaign fight.
so
It's important, but before you get there, you got to get them interested in the issues and interested in the actual race. And too many people are not just taking the weekend off; they're taking the whole thing off. I think. I fear.
you
I
mean
fear.
what do you mean not participating?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think they're
not
just saying,
voting.
yeah. They're saying, "Not my life. This isn't my life. I can get
But
by.
it is. But it is. And
I'll
then
pay
and then they
attention."
yeah, and then they bitch and moan about stuff that goes wrong, like how much it costs to live.
Yeah, I'll pay attention when I have to, but I can't pay
Well, they
attention.
should be paying attention right now because if you're ticked off that it's difficult to live. Uh, the scary thing is now people are saying, college ain't all that it's cranked up to be.
Oh yeah. Oh, that bugs me too.
Oh
What they
man.
what they want is an uneducated electorate. That's what they want.
Well, that's at the elite level of the manipulation of democracy. Okay. Um, at our level, okay, real life. Okay, I agree that a 4-year education isn't what it used to be. But one of the reasons that people are feeling that way is the cost, right? Because even paying for public school tuition nowadays is ridiculous.
Right.
And I've said on this show a couple of times that if going to law school, a UC system law school, cost what it does today, or even anything close to it, when I first considered going to law school in the late '60s or early '70s, I probably wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
I probably would have chosen, and I don't even know if a PhD would have been worth it. Okay, because
Well,
the
yeah.
thing that drove my interest in graduate level of education was the fact that I was working as a lecturer in the beginning of the college of well the School of Ethnic Studies at the time, and that's what really drove my motivation. Was a PhD or the JD? Which one do I choose?
Yeah.
And so now kids aren't even saying they're saying and their families are saying, "Wow, you go to college, you're in debt." You know,
Yeah, I mean, it never was college being synonymous with debt. It was college being synonymous with I'm going to be X, I'm going to be Y. It was still a dream, and now it's debt.
Yeah,
College is debt,
yep,
and that's tied into the banking system and the creation of Sally Mae and
yep,
structure and
yeah. Remember, well, Obama thought he was doing a good thing, right? When he said, "Okay, we got to take the management of these loans and grants out of the hands of the banks," and God, did that go bad, right?
yeah.
It,
And
it
yeah, yeah, and that was one of the Obama faux pas, I think,
it was a
because
biggie. It was a I don't know, and the guy, what, who was running it at the time? The Secretary of Education.
oh, I
I can't even remember who that was now.
yeah, I
Okay,
forget.
anyway, so that's one of my worries. I do like the idea that people are saying you should do both. You should have a college education, but you should also go get a gig in an
Yeah,
area where we need workers. And so,
yeah,
you got to be looking at what usually gets called blue collar jobs. But nowadays, most of those things, except the hardcore construction, right?
yeah.
And areas like plumbing, if you look at electricity, and wiring, even residential wiring and all that stuff, that requires high technical skill,
Oh yeah,
and science, right?
yeah. I mean, a lot of the things are tech oriented now. What bothers me is that um,
Car mechanics,
what gets hurt are the liberal arts because people say, "Oh, you want to study history? Oh, I guess you're going to go to the history shop." You know,
How you going to make money?
yeah, yeah. Or
Doing history.
you want to be a
I could do
philosopher?
that.
Oh, you're going to go to the philosophy shop, yeah, and make how much an hour? And that reduces these uh, these areas of study that are so important. If we want to continue on as a great society, we need to have people who understand these things.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and then not just the professors and the people, at the highest levels talking about it, but we need everyone. We need a smart society of people who have things in common, who know about the Civil War.
Well, you know what makes me hopeful is that uh, remember the programs that not only the government funded programs for training, right, on the job training, but there were also private enterprise investments. So they would bring in technicians, like let's say HVAC, right? You know,
Mm,
and they would bring in technicians, they would train them, and they would work in the industry. And then after a couple of years, depending on how well the individual did, and these are unionized jobs as well, the companies would finance their education if they wanted to go on to college. And that's now being revived.
yeah.
So the demand for highly trained technicians is so strong right now that they're looking at the possibility of in some industries being short 2 million workers over the
Mm.
next 5 years.
Well, the key is number one, fund it, have industry fund it. Number two, don't call it college. I
Right.
mean, you could call it college, but don't call it college. It sort of demeans college, but
Yeah,
it just it's a trade school or it's a institution or something or an institute of HVAC, but it's not a college. It's not a university. And
right.
I think what's at stake is we're losing people who know how to speak, who know how
Yeah.
to write,
Yeah,
who know how
right.
to understand and
Yeah,
comprehend what people are speaking and writing, or know. I mean, and maybe it doesn't matter because what people are speaking and writing are hip hop lyrics or are something else, and the level of discourse isn't more than what you would communicate in a text. So we need at least grammar for people who text. We need at least grammar for social media. We need a common knowledge or a common so we know what uh, NSW means, or SMH, or you know, uh, I know
TFU.
LGF or
Yeah.
LFG, or I don't know. There's all
Yeah.
these things that I don't know. I don't know what they mean. I say I got to go to Google this. This three letter word.
No, I used. There were people talking up in class in one of my big sections. Over 100 people in one of those,
Hmm.
and and I would say STFU, and they actually somebody in the back in this hip hop generation said, "What's that? What's that?" Somebody had to explain. uh,
Oh, LOL,
yeah,
LOL,
oh
Professor
man,
Dan.
that's really that's kind of well. It's so
LOL.
old now. People don't use it anymore.
ROFL, Dan.
Yeah, yeah,
ROFL.
that's right. That's right.
Hey, I'm just LOL.
Okay. So anyway, get out there, get those tech jobs because you will make money and you will make a living, and then vote for people who are going to reward the construction of new residential homes. So
And then
that
and then consider getting a BA in English just because you want to support your local poets.
or that you can contribute to writing manuals that make sense, or you know
Well,
assembly directions that make sense, right?
they don't make, because most of them are written in in China. I think
Yeah.
most of the
The grammar's
directions.
well, the grammar's bad, but you can get the sense of it. What cracks me up is IKEA directions, right, where it's all 90% symbols.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Let me pose like the guy.
Yeah,
What is
that's
he doing?
right. Yeah. Okay, my
He's
God.
playing with a screwdriver.
Yeah, no, you need really good explanations. We're kind of techie in our household, so I built one of the desktops that I'm using right now, and my son built more, but and then we're talking just now. We were talking about the fact we got to update our stuff, right? Because
Oh,
there's new software coming out, and the AI, right? You need an up to date CPU. So here we go. You know,
AI. Well, look, that's the thing. As long as you keep up with the tech folks, you will beat aging. That's always been my. I mean, I just updated Windows.
right?
I was with Windows 7.
What?
And,
Jeez.
oh my God, Windows 7. It's like, this is great, Windows 7.
This I can't even remember anything that still runs. Don't you get messages that say no longer supported?
Oh wait, no. Oh, I updated from Windows 95. That's me.
Oh my God.
So I'm just saying. Some people are like, am I a radical liberal? No, I'm a traditionalist. Traditionalist.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway,
I
but
don't know.
I've always said, keep up with be an early adopter, keep up with all the new stuff, and you will defy aging,
Yeah,
because you'll know all the stuff. You'll know if you're have the patience
yeah.
to.
I want to end on an up note, so I'm not going to mention some about aging.
Okay, all right. So all right, up note. Let's end on an up note, and the up note is happy birthday to Flossie Lewis, 100 years old
I'm
today.
good for that. Happy birthday to everybody that's approaching that milestone in
Yeah,
all of our lives, and
and
especially to somebody who's contributed to the growth of thousands, probably, of students during
oh
her
yeah, when you
lifetime of teaching.
think about that, it's really incredible. And most of the people who will be honoring her this weekend are people who are her former students, and
Right on.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's the way it should be.
and
The way it should be.
so it's incredible. And look, Dan, I know you're being modest. I know that's a foreign thing with you, but uh, the fact that you have taught so many um,
Yeah, I
young,
gotta I gotta
young
score. Some think I was great, and some think I was not great. That I was terrible.
No, but
So,
the thing was, you were there and no one else was, and you were teaching them the stuff they need to know. And without that stuff that they know, because you helped them attain that, they know a lot about what it means to be Filipino in America. So I think that that is always, uh, I've always noticed that among students that, your former students who I know, and they've always said that about you. And of course, the ones that who you've really touched and affected, they've gone on to do, you know, to be PhDs. They've gone on to learn more. So that is the thing. That is the beauty of teaching, right?
yep, it is. It
Yeah.
is when people surpass whatever personal standard we had as teachers, and you see people surpass that and bring joy and expansion of people's intellectual horizons, right, in their own right. And I'll tell you one. My colleague Allison Tintiaco Cabales she's done that more than any other individual that I know, in, in
Hmm.
in the whole country. Because of she started an institution that was aimed at getting more people into the educational professions, educator professions, and she's just succeeded, and it takes teamwork. She may be the person who was the leader and the most significant founder, but she's got people on her board. I was on her board for a few years, and she's got people now that we're talking about, clearly the beginning of a third generation of
No,
people working.
that's great. That's great. I've known Allison for some time. I just think it's great when you can start that. But this is education. This is the power of education. The
Yeah,
power.
but and so we know how well it contributes to the development of our own communities, not only our ethnic communities, but our the communities in which we live, regardless of our ethnicity. And so they've done that, but once again, it's not really appreciated as well as it should be.
Oh no,
You
no,
know,
it isn't. And so that's one of the things. Flossie is a high school English teacher, um, turning a 100. Um,
but a person of wisdom that passed wisdom on.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's something. And I know I'd be a lot different if it weren't for her, because I had English teachers who said, yeah, you're good. Yeah, and
was
they
was,
pass on.
was Catherine Swan teaching at Lowell when you were there?
I
What
don't.
year did you graduated?
uh, Late 70s.
Okay, yeah.
I
I
don't
think
think
she was. I think she was there. Yeah.
she might have been there later, but I I just maybe she was. I only hung out with Flossie and I had another teacher who's passed away, a guy named James Napton. He was good. Um, and Mrs. Wallach. I never had Mrs. Wallach, but she was the sister of the New Yorker film critic Pauline Kael. And
Mm.
so she was a she was smart, sharp, but she's very different from the kind of sassiness that Pauline Kael showed in her criticism. She was a soft and delicate, almost bird-like kind of woman. Anyway, look, our high school English teachers, we the best ones we remember, and
Oh yeah.
then you're lucky if you can surpass them with a great college professor, which I know for many people you were. So Uh, I unfortunately had none of my college professors got tenure. So whenever I went back for,
Wow. Really?
yeah,
Terrible.
whenever I went back for reunion, or they're dead. They're dead. Um, my favorite college professors were always like passed on and went to another place. And um, yeah, and the big guys, if you had the tenured guys as a freshman or sophomore, they never talked to you. You always talk to TAs.
That was one of the complaints that we had before ethnic studies started. But what that conflict over whether or not to have ethnic studies in the first place, and in our success in establishing it, um, brought out allies
Yeah,
in a lot of the traditional departments that really didn't get much recognition.
Yeah.
And I try to remedy that by mentioning them. You know, a lot of our coverage of those times, we are kind of self centered. We talk about ourselves and the people who are our immediate allies among the students,
Mm.
and rarely do we mention the people who were our allies among the faculty and the administration.
Yeah, it's important that the allies because anytime you mention ethnic studies in the 70s, it was the retort was, "Oh, you're into basket weaving?
Yeah, that kind
Ooh,
of stuff.
you're
Yeah,
into yeah." I mean, they diminished the importance of that knowledge, and even today, what you hear about
CRT.
identity politics. It's not identity
Yeah, it's an
politics,
identity politics when we do it and we identify as specific ethnic or racial groups.
right?
But when white people do it, it ain't identity politics.
It's the
It-
academy.
It's
It's
just politics.
Yeah, or the academy, because white studies is identity politics, but they won't own up to it. But
Yeah,
white studies is most everything. White
yeah.
studies is most everything in the academy. So
Well, but what they're trying to do, especially Project 2025, what we opened up with earlier, right, is to
yeah.
restore that
Oh yeah,
the
that
exclusivity of
that
white
is
supremacy.
everything what Trump's about. The restoration of
It's what it is.
of that mindset that we can't have equity, we can't have people, we can't have. I mean, this is why Kamala Harris, if she becomes the standard bearer for the Democrats. What a combination! An African American, South Asian vice president who ascends to the ticket. She's not affirmative action. She DA, AG, California, San Francisco, to the Senate, to vice president. That's not affirmative action. That is, you see, that's meritocracy in action. You look at Donald Trump, and what has Donald Trump? That is white affirmative action.
It
And
is.
what has Donald Trump has no business being in the White House.
Well, it's not even white affirmative action. It's white legacy.
White legacy.
You
Well,
can't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but his legacy. His father was a real estate baron. He was not a politician. He was a racist real estate baron. So the legacy is inappropriately put on the White House when Donald Trump's there, and he has no. I mean, he was there one term, but his one term is so laughable. He lost. He wouldn't give it up. But if it's Kamala versus Trump, I think the polls show now that Kamala would do better than Biden, would beat or would be closer to Biden, or closer to Trump by essentially it'd be a dead heat right now. But I think she would be able to take all the coalition that the Democrats have and defeat Trump soundly. So
Yeah, I think that's a. Well, let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks, and we'll revisit this. I hope that you
yeah,
find it important enough to revisit the issues. I
well,
also encourage people to please look up the Aldef blog on, particularly this recent one. But you should, they have an archive
yeah,
of your blogs, and they're really worthwhile reading.
well,
So
thank you for saying that, Dan. Thank
yeah,
you for saying.
well, happens to be real. It's probably what's problematic is uh, that people look at our expressions, particularly when we become critical or when we wax philosophical. Uh, One of the criticisms that I get is that we're way off base, we're too radical or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
And man, when you compare what we're talking about to truly left radical organs, which is some of the stuff that's on KPFA, for example, gets
yeah.
presented.
We're fairly moderate.
And yeah, that's right, that's right. And but we're willing to take the opportunity to listen to people on
Mhm.
KPFA. There are times when KPFA, when people are guests on KPFA, that like Robert Reich, for example, is a
Yeah,
regular guest on KPFA, and he's kind of accepted as a left of center, economist that that rose to the level, right, of cabinet member
Right.
under the Obama administration. So he got cred from doing that. But before that, he was seen as being hyper radical. That his criticisms of capitalism and all of that. What are you for, Rob? Are you for socialism? Is that what you want? Or
Yeah.
and
Well,
that's how people look at that, and
yeah.
it's really unfortunate because American society is a center right majority, right, and
Yes.
that's what we're up against. That they're not really willing to listen to methods of understanding and also reparative political action because they see it as being too far left.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, as long as we can keep it out there, have people talk or talk about these things, I think it's important for people to see us talking about it.
yeah.
Because they say, "Oh, well, people like that are talking about it. This got to be important stuff." People like us are talking about it because people, other brown people, other Asians, other Filipinos. You need people to see that. We're not just talking about food. We're not talking about food. We're not talking about.
Well, we could do that
We could do
sometime.
that. We could do that too. We're not talking
Yeah.
about drink. We're not talking about what Filipinos talk. We're not talking about. Oh, no, we're talking about real stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah.
about stuff that we usually get excluded from the discussion, but we are discussing it, and it's important, and it's not just the elites talking about it. It's just like regular folks. Regular.
I think our goal is to one of our goals anyway is to try and get, uh, particularly for the Asian American immigrant communities,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
is to get them engaged. You know, and also inform them in a manner that's consistent with their actual needs.
yeah,
So that's what we're trying to do. And we try to do it with some level of humor. I mean, you've got a much broader uh, realm of activity than I do at this point. And
Well, I don't have a yoga class like you.
Yeah, right, right.
I
But
should. I want to do.
that
I
that's
do video yoga.
that's kind of highly individual. What you're doing stuff with audiences in a number of different places,
Yeah. Well,
especially the comedy clubs. You get to do the comedy clubs, man.
oh, it's weird. It's weird. I went to a comedy club and mentioned Biden. Quiet. Mentioned Trump. Quiet. I mean, it's not like they want to joke about it. A comedy club is an escapist place, and um, they did not want to hear me joke about the truth about how we're going into July 4th weekend, and we have half the democracy we had compared to last week. Because of this new Supreme Court thing, and they weren't laughing. I mean, it wasn't a release to know that it was like concern, which means comedy clubs, they're going there for the escape. Give me another beer, give me another dick joke. Come on, I'm gonna, here all night.
Wow.
And they weren't ready. They didn't want to hear the kind of satire. Maybe if it was funnier in their mind, but I just think after 2 hours of the standard fare from comedians to be told a level of truth they weren't. It was almost.
Yeah,
It's sad because I don't think George Carlin could have been. They weren't ready to hear that. They were maybe what I'm saying is that they were listening. They were giving me polite, but they weren't applauding like they
right,
would
right.
Carlin. For telling the truth, or like they would have Jon Stewart. I mean,
Yeah.
for telling a truth. They were. So I must have been in Trump country to a degree.
Okay.
So
Where
we,
were you? Where geographically were you?
south of Stockton.
Oh man, you.
Yeah, yeah. I was not in a liberal bastion. I was in you know,
Well, and the people, Republicans or Republican inclined people, were rejoicing in the
yeah.
in the fucking.
Well, look,
Fuck-
San Joaquin County.
I said frucking. Okay,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
with an R in there,
Okay.
but yeah, in their they were rejoicing in the
Yeah,
Supreme Court's decision.
yeah, yeah. San Joaquin County did vote for Hillary Clinton, so it's not totally red. It's kind of bluish. It has
Mhm.
been bluish. I mean, they gerrymandered the seat for this guy Harder, who is Democrat, but he's one of those quiet. He's
That's
just a
probably
vote.
how he got elected.
Yeah, he's just a vote. He's just a Democrat. He's just a raise a hand. I don't know what he stands for. He's not very effective. I don't like him, but I may vote for him because you got to keep the seat. Got to keep the seat warm for a better Democrat, and until they
Wow.
reapportion or draw the lines. But it's a weird area, and I might have gotten a little different reaction if I were another suburb of San Francisco, but it's like I think people want to escape, and I think they want to escape this weekend too. I don't think they're really as engaged, so maybe that's good for Biden. Probably a few people saw the ABC thing.
Yeah, I don't think it drew. It wouldn't draw the kind of attention that the debate itself did,
Yeah,
for sure. That's a certainty.
yeah, yeah. But
Anyway, thank you for
okay, Dan.
remembering that as teachers we've had our successes, and that some of our students have gone beyond our own accomplishments and done great things for the society at large.
Yeah.
So
Well, I just I think it's worth bringing it up with you here, and I appreciate you taking the time too. So we say goodbye to Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, our friend, our colleague of College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus, Politics, Asian American Studies, Filipino American Studies, you name it. All right, have a great rest of the weekend, Dan. Take care.
thank you, thanks for having me, and carry on, sir.
All right, man. There he goes, Daniel Phil. No, I forget that he has been this teacher, but college level teaching is, because by the time you get to college, you think you know everything, right? So when you get a teacher who really impacts you in college, that's a good teacher, and Dan's been that. High school, that's like the front lines, because people are dumb, and you got a college or high school level teacher who touches you in a intellectual way. Got to be careful with that, because teachers don't want to be that close, right? But when I write about my dear friend, teacher, mentor Flossie Lewis, who turns 100 this week, she was like a family, and she come up not when I was in high school, but later on as an adult. She came over to the house, vegan meals, got to know the kids. She knew both my wives, the good one and the bad one. And I remember I consulted her about, should I marry this one? Very, and it saddens me that it was COVID that kept us apart these last couple of years, and then just inertia, life. I'm going back to see her this weekend. I look forward to it, but I hope she remembers me. I mean, she's fighting the memory loss, but it's her. She says it's her greatest joy, remembering the people she loved. And oh, I have so many stories for my that where we gathered together and were mischievous with society, um, and just she was the green light for me in terms of encouraging me. So I never forget her, even though we're apart because of distance and because of COVID, but not this weekend. I'm going to go see her. So check out my essay on Flossie Lewis on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Hey, and that's it. Thank you to Dan, who was my guest. We were only going to talk for 30 minutes. So now I swish out. We like to leave with a little meditation, because really meditation, it's going to help me get through. If Trump wins, I think we all should start meditating. That's going to be the answer. Meditation. Being quiet, doing nothing, helpful. And a little loving kindness, as Sharon Salzberg likes to safe. Loving metta, M-E-T-T-A. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. It's going to be up in the hundreds here where I am. Stay cool. Stay hydrated. Till next time. Watch the beginning of this. It's interesting. Till next time. Mahal.